Welcome to Theory of Pets. I'm a passionate pet owner with a drive to help others like me uncover the truth about the pet industry and what goes on behind the scenes. Dog training is always a hot topic, whether people have puppies or they have just recently rescued a pet from a shelter. There are always questions about how to train a dog that's new in your home, as well as dogs that you've had for years. Maybe people are realizing that they should have trained when the dog was younger and they didn't do it then. Now they're experiencing some bad behaviors and they need to learn how to train their dog to behave better. Maybe it's something where we have a Labrador. She's a great example. She is a very busy dog. She has a lot of energy. She's also highly intelligent, so she gets bored very easily. And we continue training. She's 4 now. We've done many different types of training with her, and we continue that, and we will continue that throughout her life because it keeps her active and stimulated, and it's something that she certainly needs, to stay healthy and happy. So there are many, many different reasons to train a dog. Sometimes it's an absolute need. Sometimes it's just something that you want to do to keep your dog happier and healthier, and something that's also entertaining for you as a dog owner. I know it also helps to foster the bond between the owner and the dog. So whatever the reason, I constantly get questions about dog training. Today I reached out to Scott Sheaffer. He is a certified dog behavior consultant and a certified professional dog trainer. He is the founder and CEO of USA Dog Behavior. They are dog behavior specialists that work training all different types of dogs, but he kind of focuses on dogs where they need assessment and treatment of things like fear, anxiety, aggression, different behavior issues that owners have a hard time working with their dogs on their own. If your dog has behavior issues like begging or jumping, those can often be taken care of with, watching a few YouTube videos and doing a little bit of research. You can figure out how to train your dog in home for those smaller problems. But behaviors like hyperactivity, compulsive behaviors, fear, resource guarding, separation anxiety, that stuff often takes the help of a professional trainer. So Scott is here today to talk to us about dog training, how to find the right trainer for you and your pet, and then of course talk about his style of training and why he uses that style. There are so many different types out there, and he's going to touch on those and explain how we can find trainers to work with in our area that will have a safe training method that is going to be effective for our pets. Scott, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here today. As I mentioned to you when we were talking, training is something that I feel is one of the most important aspects and responsibilities of pet ownership, but also something that a lot of people do the bare minimum in the beginning. You house train your dog, you potty train them, you maybe train them to do a few commands: sit, stay, come, respond to their name, that kind of stuff. But that's usually where people drop the ball, and there's so much more to dog training than that, and we'll get into that in a minute. But to start us off, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the dog training field?
Okay. Well, I have been training dogs all of my life, and I'm not a real young person, so that's a number of decades here I've been doing this. And I started out with general obedience. I was what most sit, stay down, come tricks, that kind of stuff, like most people do, but saw the need. There's a big behavior issues, aggression, separation anxiety, compulsive disorders, and so forth. And through the years, really specialized in that, and that's what my certifications are in. I'm a certified dog behavior consultant and a certified behavior canine consultant certification. So my wife and I run our business. It's USA Dog Behavior. We're out of Dallas, Texas. And we do that full-time now, working a lot with private clients. We've worked with thousands of dogs through the years. And in addition to that, we do legal consulting in dog bite cases, do a lot of that. And we consult with animal control services in various municipalities and do seminars and so forth. So that's what we do now. It's our full-time business. and we just love dogs. And one thing that's funny, Samantha, is no matter how many dogs I've worked with, and we calculated out the other day that like a couple thousand so far, and we realized that we still love dogs just as much today as we did 25 years ago. I just love dogs, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, especially coming from somebody who has worked with a lot of dogs with behavior issues and, you know, some serious problems I'm sure you've seen over the years, you know, knowing that obviously you keep that love of dogs. That's why all of us work in the pet industry and work with animals. You know, it doesn't go away. If anything, it gets stronger over time. So that's great to hear.
So right, it never gets old. It really just doesn't. It never gets old. And I think if you're in this business, you should be passionate about animals. It's a requirement.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about dog training and why it's so important. There are quite a few people, I feel like, you know, they adopt a dog, whether it's a puppy or an adult dog from a shelter or rescue organization. And they know that, you know, obviously teaching them to learn their name and that kind of stuff is important. But there's some benefits to command training and obedience training that people really they should focus more on training, I feel like, than a lot of people do.
Oh, absolutely. That is so true. And it's not, I just love what you just said, Samantha, because it's not an issue of, can my dog sit? Can my dog do it down? Can I get a good recall when the dog come to me? That's important. Those are some basic things that your dog needs to know to do. But you're also doing something extra, especially in the rescue, like you just mentioned. You're building a relationship. When you're working with your dog, even on such simple things as sit, stay, down, come, you're building a relationship and a communication with your dog that is so important and is so important for rescue. I just love you just said that. To me, in fact, the more dogs that I work with over the years, the more I think the relationship side of that is more important than the actual learning the commands or the cue. The other thing I want to add to that is when you rescue dogs, and that's what we're talking about, before you get training, before you engage the services of a trainer or go to a group class, just make sure what you want to train. And in the case of a rescue, really interrogate the rescue operation, especially if it's been in a foster home, that's even better, as to the behavioral history. What has this dog been through? What are some of its behavior issues? Does it have some separation anxiety? Does it have some fear issues of dogs or humans? Or whatever the issue is. Try to get the best history you can and tailor the training to that. So it's more than just sit, stay, down, come. It's also possibly addressing some of those behavior issues and knowing what they are. Your best situation in a rescue is not for the dog to come out of a shelter, but to get this behavioral history, the best situation is for it to have been in a foster for a month or two. And that foster should know some of that dog's issues, and you can just get on those right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually follows into my next question really well. So you mentioned you want to get into those right away. Some people think, not necessarily, I think, as much with adult dogs, but when they adopt a puppy, I hear a lot of people say, you know, oh, he's still very young, and so we'll work on training as he gets older. But it really is something that should start from the moment that you get that dog.
Absolutely, underscored, italics, and bold on that. Okay, yes, please. I think there's some reasons that people don't start training their dog right away. I think some of it is they're so overwhelmed with getting this new dog, it's kind of like, wow, this is just another thing. Sometimes I think they get some bad advice from their veterinarian, and especially if it's a really young dog, like less than 16 weeks, a lot of vets, this is kind of more old school than current, but a lot of vets still say, oh, until we get that second round of shots at 16 weeks, I don't want that dog socializing and being around any other dogs, or certainly going to a group dog training class or whatever. But what we now know, and there's some really good papers out on this, we now know that more dogs are euthanized because of socialization issues, meaning fear of humans, fear of dogs, with resultant aggressive behavior sometimes, than they are from the diseases that they might get from not being fully vaccinated. That is a really interesting thing. There's a lot of studies and some good papers have been written on this. So, yes, the first 16 16 weeks from the socialization perspective, getting them not afraid of things is what we mean by socialization. Exposing them to sounds and sights and cars and trucks and people and tall people, skinny people, different ethnicities, dogs, cats, all this kind of stuff is so important the first 16 weeks. Plus, that's the socialization side. Plus, even at 8 weeks, and we typically get dogs at 7 or 8 weeks, certainly no younger than 7, they're very open to training. Now, obviously, you want to make it appropriate for the dog's age, but yes, start that training right away. Don't wait. There, you can tell I'm pretty passionate about that.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure you've seen some dogs that have waited and have developed behavior issues because of that.
And that is exactly correct, Samantha. So many of the cases that I get, the serious behavior cases, there's a deficiency in this regard. Now, it's not always an issue of socialization. Sometimes when puppies are taken away very early from the mother, or they have some bad events happen to them, they're mistreated or whatever, or genetic issues can influence that. But there are a lot of times where, yes, there's not a proper socialization period that enables these dogs not to be so fearful of these things in the future. And when that doesn't happen, you're right, I call it cleaning up. I have to clean up sometimes. And it's always harder to bend that branch of the tree that's bent when it was an early young sapling. It's easier to fix that than it is once that tree gets bigger. You get the analogy.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that's important when we're talking about, older dogs. If you wait, you've already kind of, cemented some of those bad habits in that you're going to have to fix. And when you get a rescue dog, like you said, the best thing you could do certainly would be to educate yourself, because there's more than likely you're going to have some things that you're going to have to work on with any dog that comes from a shelter or a rescue organization.
Yes, and since we're talking about rescues, which is a big part of my work, and I think most people know that the majority of people in the United States get their dogs from rescues now. It's not puppies. They're not puppies from breeders, but puppies or dogs from rescues. The other thing I want to mention is it's so important, is so many rescue organizations don't point this out to new adopters, and that is, you don't know what dog you have, Samantha, until that dog has been at your home. I like to say 3 weeks to 3 months. The first weeks and months that your dog is at home, a rescue dog, the dog is kind of, I don't want to say shut down, the dog is inhibited. It'd be like, Samantha, it'd be like if I came to your house to spend a week. That first week I'd be there, I'd be so well-mannered, I just wouldn't be getting into any trouble at all. But after I was there for a while, you start to see who Scott really is. I'd start to relax a little bit, my inhibitions would die down. Well, dog, and you see how rude I really was. Dogs do the same thing. When we bring them into our home, they're kind of shut down or inhibited for a while, and we don't really know what their behavior problems, issues, and their good points, by the way, their good strengths are until they've been in a home. I like to say 3 weeks to 3 months. So, that being said, be open to modifying what your plans are for this dog. You may have that dog there initially and think, we need to work on A, B, and C, but later on you might say, actually, we need to work on D, E, and F.
That's a great point. And do you recommend that people train their dogs themselves, or would you recommend they reach out to a professional trainer?
Oh, I'm just going to get in trouble. You're asking me these questions, I'm just going to get in trouble with people. I think I'm already in trouble with some veterinarians for my statement about the vaccinations. Now you're going to get me in trouble with some dog owners, too. I'm going to say that the majority of people, first of all, before I say this, God bless everyone that gets a rescue dog. I love people that work in rescue, and I love people that get rescue dogs. God bless you. That being said, most people are not really qualified to train a dog. They really aren't. And if you don't have any major problems, the investment is so little. You can go to a 5-week training class, a group training class for $150 to $200. That's the total cost for 5 weeks, 1 hour a week for 5 weeks. be in there with, if it's a good school that is, but a good school with qualified people, and they're going to show you the right way to do these things. So I'm not a giant fan of most owners doing it, and certainly got to be careful looking on the internet. There's really just a lot of bad information out there about dog training and just some really just not good stuff. So you love your puppy, your dog, you're going to have this dog for years, or that's just a small investment to get professional help and do it right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott. You know, it takes a lot of education to be able to train a dog properly, and you certainly can educate yourself, but it's time consuming more so than the training that, you know, you're going to be doing. It takes a long time to learn. There's a lot of different types of training that you have to educate yourself on. So, you know, I agree, and I always, you know, share that information with people. For the money that you spend to work with a professional that is already educated, has the knowledge that they need to help you and help your dog, it really is such a great value for the small amount of money that you spend.
Yes, couldn't agree more.
And it will pay off tenfold. I mean, if you have a dog, we've already talked about, you know, some of the behaviors that you mentioned you see when a dog isn't properly trained. For your $150 to $200 to not have to deal with those issues in the future, it's well worth it.
Yes, agree.
So let's talk about finding a trainer, because as we've discussed, you know, there are different types of training methods. Of course, there's many different types of trainers out there. What would you recommend, or what tips would you provide a pet owner that was looking for a trainer in their area to work with?
Okay. Well, one thing to know is that dog trainers are not required, with some very few exceptions in the United States. Dog trainers are not required to have any kind of licensing or testing or anything, which is to say, just about anybody can go get some business cards made, watch a couple of made-for-TV dog training episodes, and you're a dog trainer. And those are scary people. Maybe sometimes their heart's in the right place, but we got to be careful there.
Sure.
The first thing I would say, and we'll get more on that in just a second, but the first thing I would say is, what's the need? And generally speaking, are you just trying to train the dog on general obedience, sit, stay down, come? Those kinds of things. Lots of people out there can do that. Or do you have a behavior issue? So people that can help on general obedience typically aren't particularly skilled or qualified to work on those more serious behavior issues. Sometimes they may attempt it, and that can get into a lot of trouble. There's a saying that we have in my world that says, and this is used in other industries too, when all you have is a hammer, everything is a nail. So if you have an aggression issue, teaching your dog better sit, stay down, and come is not going to really fix that. It won't probably hurt, but if that's the only tool you have, that's not going to help. So if you have a behavior issue, make sure that you get somebody that specializes in that behavior issue. The funny thing is, almost every case that I see, behavioral case that I see, the dogs actually have pretty good general obedience skills. They're very good at sit, stay down, come, look at me, leave it, drop it, all that kind of stuff. They have behavior issues. So get the right person for what's needed. A couple more notes. Back to the trainers themselves, just make sure that the person or the school you're going to be using has some. I feel a lot better when they're certified by a professional certifying organization, such as one of the best known one is the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers is a big one. They have a certification from them, and there are a host of others. It's just a third party looking at this person, testing them, and making sure they know what they're talking about. The other couple of things to think about would be, another one would be experience. So the majority of dog trainers out there are part-time. This is interesting. A lot of people don't know this. About 75% of all dog trainers are part-time. Nothing wrong with that. I did that for years when I first got started. But find out how part-time. If they're doing this 2 hours a week and just started last month, you might want to be careful about that.
Right.
How much are they doing it? How long have they been doing it? And if you go to a group class, not the school you're looking at, who is specifically going to be teaching our class? How much are they doing this? How long have they been doing this? And I guess the last thing, if I'm just ticking through the couple notes here, on finding a trainer is the methods. The methods. What do I mean? Positive reinforcement. We know now it's not 1950 anymore. We know that choke collars, shock collars, prong collars, using aversive punishment as a way of training gets short-term results. But the results aren't very durable, and it frequently causes some pretty significant behavior issues later. Positive reinforcement improves the relationship with your dog. We talked about that earlier. And it gets fast results and durable results, and it doesn't create some other behavior issues. I always ask people when they come to me, I say, and a lot of times I hate when this happens, but so many of my clients say to me, Scott, you're my last hope, and I hate being put in that situation. Yeah, it's a terrible situation. It happens way too often. But I ask them this question, and I'm going to tell you, Samantha, I get emotional even just saying this out loud. I almost have stopped asking this because I always know, or so frequently the answer is, and this question is, who else have you seen for this issue? How has this dog been trained, and by who in the past? And so often, the majority of cases I would say, well, I went to Joe Blow, the dog trainer, and he used a shock collar, and he told me how to do leash snaps, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and I can just see it in the dog. This creates all kinds of problems, and I'm almost thrilled when someone comes to me, and I say, have you seen anyone else? No, I've never been to another dog trainer.
Yeah.
Yes, good. So be careful. Enough on that. You can tell I'm pretty passionate about that.
Yeah, well, it's an important topic to talk about, and I think, sadly, how to choose a dog trainer and the different methods of dog training, it's not something that a lot of pet parents are educated about. It's not something that is really discussed a lot. When you first adopt a dog, they talk a lot about finding a veterinarian and, providing the right nutrition and all that kind of stuff, but to me, dog training is equally as important, and it's just not something that a lot of people know much about.
Yes, and that is exactly right. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, Samantha, because no one is intentionally getting up and saying, how can I mess my dog up today? No one does that. And when these people engage these dog trainers that I think are not particularly confident or are using methods that are really short-term and kind of crude, they're trusting that dog trainer. They look at that dog trainer as all-knowing, and they're trusting their dog with this individual. And so, yeah, it's not intentional at all. Really good point. Such a good point. It's kind of an educational issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why you're here today. That's why I wanted to reach out. We have shared a lot of great information for sure for people. Do you have any other tips that you would give a new pet owner or somebody that just brought a new dog into their home as far as training goes?
Well, I do. I actually have a couple ideas about once you've secured a group class, a training school, or an individual. You want me to cover those for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
And those are really simple. There's three things I like to tell people all the time is, first of all, I like to say that the success of any training for a dog is 50-50. 50% the owner and 50% the dog. Okay?
Absolutely.
So if the owner has been given some good instruction on what to do with their dog, if they don't do any of those things, we know what the results are going to be. Nothing. Correct? Nothing.
Right.
But if they do their 50% of the equation, then the other 50% of it is the dog. Because, by the way, all dogs are not the same. Dogs are just like people. Some learn very quickly, some not as quickly. Some dogs have some great strengths in one area and not in another. So all dogs will move differently through that. But you've got to do your half of the equation. That's number one. Or we know what the results are going to be. Second is be consistent. Mainly get all family members on board. If you have a multi-member family, 3, 4, 5 people live in the same household, this could even be multi-generational. Grandmas living there, in-laws, whatever. All the people that are living in the house have to be doing the same things with the dog, because that will really mess up your training. And something else that people don't think about, that's stressful to the dog. If you've ever worked in a place where you've had multiple bosses, you find that calming? No, it's terrible. We get different stories from different bosses trying to tell us to do different things. It's very stressful. Same with the dog. If you have different people doing different things with the dog, it will be more stressful. And I guess the final thing I want to say, and that's my PRC. I always tell clients, whether it's behavior or just simple dog training, PRC, patience. Take some time. People are so impatient with this training. When you give your dog a cue, this is an example. Give your dog 3 seconds to comply. I literally mean 3 seconds. Just be a little patient. Let your dog figure it out. The other one is, and just be patient yourself. The other one is, second one is realistic. Be realistic about training expectations. You are not going to teach your dog to stay with a 20-minute duration the first time you teach him or her stay. Not realistic. Be realistic. And then the last one we've already talked about a little bit is consistency. Be consistent in your training. So patience, realistic expectations, and consistency are the hallmarks of a good training environment for a dog.
Absolutely. And those are so important. I'm so glad you touched on that. I think that's a lot of, where people's frustrations come in when they are working on any type of dog training is, I always ask people, well, are you being patient? Are you giving the dog time to learn? You can't, just like when you're teaching a young child a new thing, you can't expect the dog to pick it up immediately. And a lot of the frustration just comes from the lack of patience. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, that is so true, and it's just, I like to tell people, this might sound a little bit corny, but I like to say, okay, I need you to go into your Zen space right now. I need you to be Zen right now. We're going to relax. We're going to let our shoulders drop. Now I'm talking about the human now. I'm not talking about the dog. We're going to let our shoulders drop, and we're just going to get in the moment with this dog, and we're going to relax, and we're going to communicate and let them read us and us read them. And I'm telling you, it's sort of magical if you can do that. I spend a lot of time, this may surprise a lot of people, I feel like I spend 50% of my time working with how the human is approaching the training, getting them to relax and getting them to listen to the dog. And of course, we listen to the dog by watching their body language, because I'll tell you, this is a whole other conversation, Samantha, but we shouldn't be so surprised with dogs' behavior, because they tell us what's going on. With few exceptions, there's a type of aggression called idiopathic aggression, where they don't really telegraph what they're going to be doing. But aside from that, maybe one or two others, you know what a dog is thinking, and you can tell what a dog is going to do by their body language if you become a student of that. And it just tends to slow everything down. Everything slows down because you're really now communicating with the dog. It's just fantastic, which is why every single client that I work for, I require them to do some canine body language education. And it's just I have like a little 49-minute video on my website. It's free, that I require them to watch, because we just can't work too well with canines if we don't have at least a basic understanding of what they're telling us. And that is a real component of successful training, and it helps you be patient as well.
speaking of your website, there are some fantastic resources on there for anybody, not just the people that are, taking your classes or in your area that can be trained by you. But I am going to link to that as well. So anybody that wants to jump on and check out some of that stuff, it is some really fantastic things, I think, for all pet parents, whether you're a first-time dog owner or somebody that's had a pet for many years.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that plug. Appreciate that, Samantha. Yeah, they do, and I found that I like to provide materials and stuff like that for dog owners, guardians, pet parents, because I don't want to spend so much time on the basics. I want to spend time on working with the human. And by the way, while we're on that, people always jokingly say to me, this almost every client says, well, ha, 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 I know you're really training me, not the dog, ha, ha, ha. But the truth is, that is the truth.
Yeah, you really are.
I'm not training the dog. And why is that? Because they live with the dog, not me. And dogs are always learning. People forget this. Dogs learn 24/7. Dogs are, so it's not, dogs don't say, oh, we're starting a training session now. I'm going to pay attention and be open to these things. No. They don't know what a training session is. They just know that they're always watching the human and they're interacting with them. So, it's just important to be cognizant of that. And that's why I work with the humans, because the humans are affecting the behavior. I have very little impact with a dog in a 1 hour, in a 1 hour session.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like you explained it, you're not the one that's spending all day, every day with the dog. So, of course, the majority of the work is going to be with the people who will be spending all day, every day with the dogs.
Yep, that is absolutely the truth. And you want to know another successful ingredient? Now we're getting a little soft or subjective here, but not really. Another really important ingredient of successful training for the pet owner is love. What do you mean, Scott, by love? Pet owners who really care for their dog and love their dog are really gonna almost always be great clients of mine. I always like to put a little mental calculation on, what do I think this dog owner is going to do with this dog? Are they going to really help it out? How much can I give them to do? How much owner compliance am I going to get? Do I have to be real simple? Can I give them some more advanced things? And I'll tell you, one of the main things I look for is love. If they really love that dog, they're going to just get into it, and magical things will happen. I had a private client last week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just start crying talking to you about this, because it was so cool. Just a young couple, I'd say in their early 20s, just a nice-looking young couple. This young man, his first dog ever, never had a dog before, and of course it's a Great Pyrenees mix. Of course, he gets a real big one, right?
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, done everybody. I did when I was really young, but this dog has a lot of issues. A rescue. We found that he looks like he's blind in one eye, and he's doing some biting and this kind of stuff. And I just talked to this young man, and I could tell that he was going to do whatever was necessary for this dog, and he was just open about his love for this dog. And I tell you, it was very, very moving.
Isn't that fantastic?
My prognosis is very good for that situation.
Absolutely. What a wonderful story.
Yeah, and I have a lot more. I tell you what, this is a very moving business. I'm not kidding you. I hear some really great things, and then there's a lot of really bad situations that are so sad that, a lot of those are involving children, just a lot of tough situations. If you're not in the business, you wouldn't appreciate it. And I know you are, so you know what I'm talking about. It's a lot of emotions and tough situations. And why is that? Because these dogs are our family members. They become our family members. My wife and I take our dogs out from time to time for grooming. And so our house is cleared out of dogs. 0 dogs. And it feels so funny for those 2 or 3 hours. Our life feels so flat without these animals in the house. And that's how people are with their dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, I always explain it to people, think about when your children are having a tough time, whether it's a tough time with their health or, they're having behavior problems at school, how stressful and how much that weighs on you. And it's the same thing when you're going through these types of things with your dogs. They are like family members. So it can be really a challenge.
Yes, you're so correct.
Again, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. If you can leave our listeners with just one thing, what would it be?
I really enjoyed talking to you today, Samantha. I can tell you really know the dog business, and I love talking to other professionals in the business. And I'll just conclude with this. And if you think about it, I like to say of all God's creations, dogs, I don't think we deserve them. But fortunately, God decided we should get them anyway. They're great, great animals.
How true is that? I often think that same thing to myself, is what have we done to deserve these amazing companions? It's a different relationship than you'll ever have with any other being, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed.
So again, thank you so much to Scott for being here on the show today. If you guys have any questions for me or any questions for Scott, jump on our website, theoryofpets.com, and you can check out our website and leave any questions there. If it's something that I can't answer, I can certainly pass it along to Scott. You can check out his website, usadogbehavior.com. There is a link to that underneath this podcast if you want to reach out to him directly. And while you guys are checking out websites, if you're on theoryofpets.com and you could just leave me a quick review when I reach out to experts like Scott, it really helps me to show them that you guys are out there listening and you're liking what you hear and you want to hear more. So thanks for tuning in, and I will be back with another hot topic next time.